Good morning. So my name is Hetty Hirshman, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and I also organize Coffee Hour, and I have generosity. The value of generosity is described in these words. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. And if you take a look at our, what do we call this now? Our flower values, one of them is generosity. This community exists because people like us gave of themselves in the past and will continue to exist in the future because we give of ourselves. As you know, we're in the midst of our annual pledge drive. As of this morning, we have 70 pledges totaling $276,240. Now, that's about 60% of our hoped-for pledges, bringing us 79% of the way to our $350,000 goal. 50 pledges increased by 5% or more over the last year, and 3 pledges are new. Thank you to all. If you'd like to make a pledge, you can do it online through Realm. It's very easy, or you can contact Ann Peretti in the Reeb office or speak to one of us.
The reading is from Beyond Religion, Ethics for a Whole World by the Dalai Lama. Generosity is the most natural outward expression of an inner attitude of compassion and loving kindness. When one desires to alleviate the suffering of others and to promote their well-being, then generosity in action, word, and thought is this desire put into practice. It is important to recognize that generosity here refers not just to giving in a material sense, but to generosity of the heart. As such, it is closely connected to the virtues of forgiveness. Without generosity of the heart, genuine forgiveness is impossible. Classical Buddhist texts describe generosity in terms of 4 kinds of giving. First, the giving of material goods. Second, the giving of freedom from fear, which means offering safety and security to others and dealing with them honestly. Third, the giving of spiritual counsel, which entails offering comfort, concern, and advice to support others' psychological and emotional well-being. And fourth, the giving of love. An important point to recognize at the outset is that the aim of any of these 4 kinds of giving should never be to ingratiate oneself with others, but should always be to benefit the recipient. If one's motivation is in any way connected to seeking one's own benefit, this is not genuine generosity. Classical Buddhist texts also note the need to be discerning when engaging in acts of generosity. For example, in addition to ensuring the soundness of one's motivation, they discuss the need to be aware of specific contexts in which giving might not be appropriate. Giving disproportionately or giving to someone at a wrong time might do the recipient more harm than good. And clearly there are certain items such as poisons or weapons which are by their very nature inappropriate for giving. If what we give is likely to be used to harm others, the principle of compassion dictates that we shun giving in that context. Furthermore, these texts emphasize the need to be sure we are giving out of respect for the recipient, not out of a sense of superiority. A genuine act of generosity will honor the recipient's dignity. These, I think, are all helpful instructions for us to keep in mind.
So it's our practice to share joys and concerns. At this time in our service, we invite you, if you haven't already, to write out one of your joys or concerns. Thank you. Online, you can put it in the chat and Lily will read for us. I want to suggest that we might expand our concept of joys and concerns to include maybe hopes and dreams, to imagine where we're headed. I'm going to start with my own hope and dream. I found myself amplifying my own sense of identity. Maybe I should stop for just a minute. If you're visiting today, I'm Jack Lohr. I'm a member of the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood, and I'm grateful to Reverend Sarah Lindsay, who is the minister here, for entrusting me with, can we call this her pulpit? She has allowed me to lead the service, and I'm grateful to each one of you for being here today. There's a Lebanese-French writer by the name of Amin Maalouf who's written a lot about identity and talks about how we need to expand who we are, our sense of our many identities. And yesterday, my own identity expanded in a way that I never thought would happen. I'm becoming a politician. I mean, who knew? Because I was feeling completely bereft about what was going on in Washington, I took somebody's advice and decided to get involved locally. So I've been attending the local Hawthorne Council meetings since January, and this past Wednesday I came home complaining to my wife once again about what goes on there, and she said, "Why don't you run for council?" Great idea. So yesterday I sent an email off to the people on the Democratic Party that I have discovered and inquired about the possibility at some point of getting involved in running for office. And within 2 hours, I was meeting with the chair of the Hawthorne Democratic Committee at a Dunkin' Donuts. It turned out they had only 2 of the 3 candidates lined up for the at-large candidacy coming up in the fall. And it looks like my name's going to get on the ballot. So if any of you live in Hawthorne, I hope you'll talk to me about it. I don't have a campaign manager yet. But I would love to see this congregation sharing more of their own aspirations as part of what we do each Sunday. So let me share with you the joys and concerns that have come up here to the front. Dan writes, my father has had his, let's see. Dan, you want to help me with this? Call it out. His wishes granted by having his ashes spread at his favorite place, the old Yankee Stadium. Hallelujah. Awesome. Georgetta shares a sorrow. She says, our best friend Bob lost his 16-year fight with multiple myeloma. We want to support his family and support his memory with our prayers today. Anita Young writes the joy. Wonderful program of Society Cafe last night. The singers were terrific. I would agree. What a gift we have in it being right here in our community. And Anita also has a sorrow. Sorry not to see more folks from the congregation there. You're missing something really, really special in our Society Cafe offerings. Lily, do we have anything online?
We do. We have Chris Henriksen. I am finding joy in the wonderful response I have been getting to my call for help. I hope to see many of you this afternoon at my Buy Nothing event.
Okay, Buy Nothing event this afternoon. Hallelujah. Let us now turn to meditation. I want to invite you to seek as comfortable and stable a posture as you can find so we can relax and be present to ourselves. You may wish to put your feet flat on the floor, rest your hands on your knees, perhaps close your eyes if any of that feels right. This meditation comes to us from the writing of Valerie Kaur. She teaches that loving ourselves is a feminist intervention, but I would add it's something that guys can also imagine. Loving ourselves is choosing to care for our own bodies and our lives as a priority. In all of our various labors, making a life, raising a family, or building a movement, we can care for ourselves by remembering the wisdom of the midwife. Breathe and push. We can breathe to draw energy and power into our bodies, to let joy in. We can push through fear and pain to become our best selves, including through healing, forgiveness, and reconciliation. Even in the most convulsive moments of our lives, we can summon our deepest wisdom and find the bravery to transition, undertaking the fiery and life-giving labor of moving from one reality into another. Laboring in love is how we birth the world to come. Breathing is the practice of taking conscious, deep breaths. We may like to do that right now. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. Breathing is the act of creating space in our lives to slow down and care for our bodies, minds, and spirits. Breathing in community, as we do now, is how we sustain ourselves and our labors for justice. And it's how we let joy in. Choosing to love ourselves by breathing deeply every day is a political intervention. Taking the time to breathe literally and metaphorically is a way to assert that our bodies are worthy and beloved. Loving our bodies is the first and primal act of loving ourselves. In this way, breathing becomes an act of revolutionary love. To push is to choose to enter grief, rage, or trauma as part of a healing process. Pushing requires us to discern the right times to breathe and rest, and the right time to push through painful sensations, emotions, and thoughts, to birth new possibilities in ourselves and others. As we breathe this morning, we may wonder right now, where am I ready to push forward in my life? Transition is both a noun and a verb. Transition is the fiery process that's required to move from one reality to another. To transition is to summon the courage to stay in the labors of love and justice, even when we want to give up. Here at USR, we're engaged in a conspiracy of love and justice, believing we're in a transition, drawing upon collective wisdom to birth something new together. And finally, our meditation brings us to joy. Joy is the core practice that sustains all others. To let in joy is to give our senses over to what is beautiful, delightful, pleasurable, or wondrous in the present moment. Joy is the gift of love. Joy returns us to everything good and beautiful and worth fighting for. It gives us energy for the long labor. Take a few moments to breathe and be sustained by thoughts or images of what brings you joy. So for this morning's message, I set myself 2 tasks. No, make it 3. The The first is to offer a message of support for USR's pledge drive. I should do that by saying, first of all, thank you to everyone who has already pledged. Thank you to everyone who is going to pledge. And thank you to those of you who support us in ways other than financial. Every part of who we are is shaped by the contributions of each one of us. My second goal is to challenge myself and each of you to give ourselves more generously to the causes that we believe in. And if there's a third point, it's to try to do both of those things in a way that sends us out of this place feeling more joyful than when we came in, because joy is really what this is about, joyous generosity. Now, on top of that, I promised everyone in the weekly news blast that there would be some serendipitously delightful surprises. I don't know if you've already experienced that. I hope so, but if not, this will be my last shot. I was convinced that I was ready. I had 3 delightful little videos to share with you. And then I started to second guess myself, as I am prone to do. The Dalai Lama's beautiful summary of the Buddhist teachings on Dana Paramita, which Georgetta read for us, which summarizes, I think, the beautiful ways in which this congregation practices the 4 aspects of generosity, also gave me pause. When I heard her read this sentence, which I'd already studied, if one's motivation is in any way connected to seeking one's own benefit, this is not generosity, not genuine generosity. Was I going to show these videos to make us all feel good? If so, we're serving ourselves. To congratulate ourselves on our generosity? And then I ask myself, do I perform generosity for the recognition that I might receive? You can see my dilemma. I actually think this is one of the reasons ministers generally try to avoid talking about fundraising. Or at least it has always been that way for me when I was employed as such. I tend to do it with oblique references like this one. Maybe you've heard the story of stone soup. A couple of hungry soldiers come into a mistrustful town that thinks they're so poor they can't afford to extend hospitality to any strangers. The soldiers offer to feed the whole town with a magic stone that makes soup out of just that stone and water. Well, this intrigues the townspeople. They gather to watch. The soldiers set the cauldron cooking in the town square. They put the stone in. After a while, they sip the soup and declare that it's delicious. But it would be helped by just a little bit of salt. And then somebody brings forth some salt, and they taste it. Oh, that's much, much better. And then the story goes on, as you may remember, and bit by bit, the townspeople are encouraged just to add a little carrot, a little onion, and gradually the magical stone soup includes a contribution from everybody in the town, and they're left with this rich soup that can feed everyone, and everybody rejoices together. And telling the story, I think that's all I need to do about a pledge drive. The message is hopefully clear. If we each contribute what we can, what's our share, the result may be something that brings delight to everyone. Now, it's not just ministers who may be self-critical of our generosity. We may, each of us, ask, are we putting our values into practice? Does our bank statement reveal our real priorities? What percentage of my income am I actually giving away? As a minister, I used to feel awkward asking people to contribute to a budget that a large measure supported my own compensation. And there's a modern translation of a line in Matthew's gospel that always made me anxious. Here's how Eugene Peterson translates it. Be wary of false preachers who smile a lot, dripping with practiced sincerity. Chances are they're out to rip you off some way or other. Don't be impressed with charisma. Look for character. Who preachers are is the main thing, not what they say. A genuine leader will never exploit your emotions or your pocketbook. Even today, no longer a minister, at pledge drive time, I wonder, how does my giving compare with others in my situation? Am I giving more or less? Will my pledge get noticed by the people in the office or the minister? I used to have the same problem on the yoga mat. They tell you not to look at how others are doing their asanas, but I couldn't keep my eyes closed. Getting back to my delightful surprise videos, isn't all generosity in some way selfishly motivated? Even when the left hand doesn't let the right hand know what it's doing, the left hand still knows and feels good. I was finally able to resolve my dilemma, at least for today, when I saw that sentence in the Article 2 Statement of Unitarian Universalist Values, which I guess it was Hetty read that for us and pointed over to our flower of values over there about generosity. This is what it says. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. What that said to me is that when gifts are freely given, a joyous relationship of reciprocity is possible. We who give recognize the privilege it is to give, and we who receive affirm our own dignity and worthiness as we say thank you. We are all on the receiving end when genuine generosity is present. It made me think somehow of the end of Gary Snyder's poem, For All. Maybe some of you remember this. I pledge allegiance to the soil of Turtle Island and to the beings who thereon dwell. One ecosystem in diversity under the sun with joyful interpenetration for all. So then I'm going to show you the videos. But let me set them up first. The first one's a pathway to hope. During COVID, we created something called Share the Porch that invites us to contribute goods for a selected charity every other month by placing those goods on the porch over in Reeve, the house next door. One of the programs we've supported is called A Pathway to Hope, created by our own members, Amy and Jason Hofer. They rescued dogs and cats in Passaic and Bergen County. This spring, they offered something called Rescue Dog Yoga. It's a program that brought human and canine practitioners of downward dog together in a day that got amazing publicity in the Record in its northjersey.com website. If you didn't see it, you really ought to go look at those pictures of what was happening in our fellowship hall. And then this past December, we supported them with Share the Porch. Their thank you video brought smiles to my face, and I'm sure it will to yours. Let's take a look.
You got your babies, huh? Do you got your babies? Oh, you got all your babies? You're checking on them?
Next, Share the Plate, Citizens for Swimming. The complement to share the plate, or share the porch, is share the plate. Half of the plate offering in Share the Plate months goes to charities approved by our Wider World Circle. This month, we are supporting Citizens for Swimming, a project of Camp YDP in Patterson. It's a project we've had supported since the 1960s. When USR supports Citizens for Swimming, as I've said, the giving is reciprocal. It goes in both directions. Our contribution of money and swim gear is reciprocated by the gift of joy from the swimmers. And finally, thank you for being a friend. We understand that most of our budget supports the programs and staff and properties here at the Unitarian Society of Ridgewood. Our budget enables us to keep growing in mind and spirit, acting together as a beacon for justice and love, transforming self and world. In case you missed it, this video reveals the joy and gratitude of the children of our religious education program, and again is sure to bring a smile of joy to our faces.
Thanks for being a friend.
Thank you. Thank you for being a friend.
Well, thank you for being a friend.
Thank you for being a friend.
I'll close with a thought from Beth Roth. She's a nurse practitioner who teaches mindfulness-based stress reduction and Vipassana meditation in Connecticut. I took my title today from her article in Tricycle magazine. Beth writes this: generosity is characterized by the inner quality of letting go and relinquishing. It reverses the forces that create suffering. It is a profound antidote to the strong habits of clinging, grasping, guarding, and attachment that lead to so much pain and suffering. Generosity brings happiness at every stage of its expression. We experience joy in forming the intention to give. We experience joy in the action of giving, and we experience joy in remembering that we have given. Generosity is not just about giving money to causes we believe in. It's about the joys that are found in giving ourselves to something larger than ourselves. Thank you so much for sharing your time this morning. Let's go forth to create a world where no one is outside the circle of love. Our words can create blessing or curse. They can cause wounds or bring joy. My parting hope is that each of us leave this place more able to perceive the beauty and worthiness of every creature and everything we encounter in our journey. We can be a blessing and bring joy through our generosity. May it be so. Blessed be.